All right, we will go ahead and call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for the City of Pataskla. Today is October 14th, 2019. The time now is 6:31. If everybody would stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Ask Ms. Paxton to call the roll, please.
Bruce Ashcraft.
Here.
Brandon Gaelic.
Here.
Alan Howe.
Here.
Rob Platt.
Here.
TJ Rotoback. Here.
We do have 5 members here. We have a quorum. We have a full board, so we will proceed. Per the agenda, item number 4A, variance application BA-19-002. I have a note here that it is to remain tabled. My recollection is the request of the applicant was to keep it tabled until the end of the year, and that is still the case, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. We will move on to new business, item number 5. Before we get started, I do want to kind of go over some, some information on how these meetings work for everybody. Some of you may or may not have been to a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting before. This is a quasi-judicial board. Anybody that comes forward must give their name and address for the record, must be sworn in. Anything that is spoken is to be evidence and testimony related to the application only, not opinion, not comments, not things like that. I often say this board simply cannot consider that you're mad at your neighbor because its dog went onto the bathroom in your yard. It has nothing to do with this. So just keep in mind that it's evidence and testimony based on the application at hand. This board will ask the questions of the applicant, of the staff. We will then call up speakers, give everybody a chance who wishes to speak and provide evidence and testimony to the application. And if there are questions raised by a speaker, by the applicant, by the staff, or by this board will relay those and handle those conversations back and forth. There's not to be dialogue from the podium back to the audience and vice versa. We do run a civil meeting here, so if somebody gets out of hand or is out of line, you will be asked to leave. Other than that, I think that I've covered everything of how we run our meetings. There's a number of people here that are, to be honest, we don't normally have this many people here. If somebody speaks before you and says the same thing that you want to say, you certainly have the right to come up and speak. We don't want to limit anybody, but also in the interest in time, you do have the option to simply stand up and say, hey, my evidence and testimony is the same as person so-and-so, and we will move on. Other than that, we have a 5-minute time limit on speaking. If you have additional evidence testimony that needs to come before this board, you will be asked to come back up later, but we will try to get through everybody as timely as we can. That being said, I think we're ready to proceed. Agenda item number 5A, this is conditional use application CU-19-002. I'd ask staff to give the report, please.
Thank you. The applicant is Stephen Garavuso. The owner is Hacienda and Stephen Garavuso. Property located at 12425 Broad Street. Zone general business, and the request is approval of a conditional use pursuant to section 1249-04-16 of the Pataskla Code to allow for an outdoor trap shooting range. The property highlighted in yellow is the property under consideration here. Broad Street along the north, Etna Parkway along to the east. The AEP laydown yard is located north across the street. Here's an enhanced view of the property. We see the building with the indoor range located here. The outdoor range is located to the rear. So the property on Broad Street has an approximately 11,000 square foot building that was constructed in 2013. The property is the Bullet Ranch, which has retail firearm sales, gunsmithing training, indoor shooting range, and a 5-stand outdoor trap shooting range. So the outdoor trap shooting range was originally used as an archery range, but according to the applicant, the archery range was underutilized, so it was converted to an outdoor trap shooting range. Staff does not know the date that this conversion took place. According to the applicant, it's open 9 a.m. to sunset. Shotguns are used with 7.5 or 8 shot with a range of approximately 400 feet. There is a backdrop with a 12-foot tall dirt mound with approximately 3 acres of woods behind that. So to give you some familiarity with the range, I went out and took some pictures. So I'll just go through these. If we need to come back for reference at a later time, we'll have these available. And that is the 12-foot backdrop with the woods, as I mentioned previously. So previously, the applicant applied for a conditional use to allow for an indoor firing range. This was the conditional use was accessory to permitted use, the sporting goods store. This was approved in 2010. However, the applicant didn't move forward with their approval in 2010 due to some adverse circumstances. Therefore, the applicant received approval after reapplying in 2012. The applicant also had to get approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission for a Transportation Corridor Overlay District application, or a TCOD. This is due to the property's location on Broad Street. And the TCOD typically will look at things as landscaping, signage, parking, lighting, things of that nature. So the portion of the application was approved on March 6th of 2013, and the remainder of the application was approved on March 20th of 2013. So the previous approvals, the applicant did state that the outdoor area would be used as an archery range. However, neither approval was predicated upon the outdoor area having to be used as an archery range. This is both through the conditional use and the Transportation Corridor Overlay District. The conditional use, as I mentioned, was for the indoor firing range. The TCOD looks at the design elements I mentioned. Had an approval or a condition placed upon the approval state that it had to be used as an outdoor archery range, then that would be a violation of the code. However, since no approval was predicated upon that, it is not a violation for the conversion. The applicant's property is located within a discharge zone. So a discharge zone means that discharge of firearms are permitted. A non-discharge zone means discharge of firearms is not permitted. The discharge of firearms must be done in accordance with section 505.11. So if we look at this is a section of the discharge map. Yellow is discharge allowed, green is non-discharge areas, and the property highlighted in blue here is the applicant's property. So section 505.11 allows hunting and the discharge of firearms otherwise permitted. In that section, otherwise permitted is not defined and is therefore pretty ambiguous. So it does raise the question, was the discharge zone, that section, written to allow hunting in appropriate locations? Or could it be said that the outdoor trap shooting is the discharge otherwise permitted? As I said, it's pretty ambiguous. So there's two conditional use standards that would be pretty relevant to this application. The one would be, will not be hazardous to existing or future neighboring uses, and will not involve uses, activities, processes, etc., excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, etc. So two potential noise concerns based upon these standards. So looking at this at different decibel levels, just to give an idea what different decibel levels mean in an example we can all understand. So a normal conversation is 60 to 70 decibels. City traffic inside a car is 85. A train whistle at 500 feet is 90. Lawnmower at 3 feet, 107. A gun blast is 140. And apparently the loudest sound possible is 194 decibels. So section 509.08 discusses unreasonably loud noise. So this, no person shall make or allow to be made any unreasonably loud or raucous noise in such a manner or at such a volume so as to disturb the quiet, comfort, or repose of a person of ordinary sensibility. Strict liability is intended to be imposed for this section. So 509 would be enforced by the police department. They do not cite a particular decibel level, therefore it would be up to the police officer to determine if the noise is unreasonable. In section 1287.05 also relates to noise. So this states noise standard, continuous, frequent, or repetitive noise which exceeds 60 decibels may not be produced. Noise from external speakers shall not be audible by an occupant of an adjacent property at the property line nearest to the source of the speaker noise. This comes from the zoning code, so this section would be enforced by the planning and zoning department. It could be argued that an outdoor range the noise would be consistent and frequent and would probably exceed that 60 decibels. Therefore, the planning and zoning department could issue a notice of code violation. The Ohio Revised Code section 1533.83 through 1533.85 outlines definitions and laws for shooting ranges. It is the Chief of Division of Wildlife's responsibility to create standards for public and private shooting ranges as it relates to noise, hours of operation, and safety. The Ohio Administrative Code does contain the Chief's standards. Public and private shooting ranges should substantially comply with listed noise or sound levels that are set to prevent hearing damage and eliminate nuisance noise complaints. Here are the two standards that the chief provides. If the noise level exceeds 90 decibels for 1 hour out of a 24-hour period as measured at the property line of the range, or if the noise level exceeds 85 decibels for 8 hours of a 24-hour period as measured from the property line of the range. So those are the two chief standards as it relates to noise. In the Ohio Revised Code section 1533.85, it does grant immunity in civil action concerning shooting range noise. So shooting range cannot be criminally prosecuted under any local noise ordinance if they substantially comply with those noise rules, and no court shall grant injunctive relief if the range substantially complies with those noise rules. So the way the state law has been written as it relates to shooting range makes the enforcement of noise regulations incredibly difficult. So the city can't proceed with the code violation process if the range substantially complies. We cannot seek an injunction if the range substantially complies. The burden of proof is on the city to prove the range did not substantially comply. Nowhere in the state law does the term substantially comply, is it defined, so it becomes subjective. No other departments or agencies provided any comments. So surrounding properties, north is M1, and as I mentioned, is the AEP laydown yard. East is general business, and that's Pataskala Meats. South is Play Manufacturing, and that's the AEP Distribution Center. And to the west, also zoned general business, and that's the Harley-Davidson shop. There's the conditional use requirements, and then some potential supplementary conditions should the board choose to approve the application. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department with 1 year of the date of approval. 2, the use of the outdoor range shall be limited to the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Sunday. 3, the outdoor range shall be used for trap shooting only. And 4, the applicant shall comply with all applicable state and federal laws. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Fulton?
No.
Not yet? Okay. Thank you, Scott. We have the applicant here, Mr. Stephen Garabuso.
Yes,
You wish to address the board?
pretty simple.
You'll need to give your name and address and be sworn in, please.
Stephen A. Garabuso, my business address is 12425 Broad Street, Southwest.
Okay, Ms. Lisa, I'll swear you in.
I can have you raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Pretty simple. We did file this application for the conditional use. This goes back 2 years. They mentioned before they didn't have a date that we converted. The date of conversion was around October 1st of 2017, so right around 2 years ago. Had many discussions with the city zoning, and it went up through the city admin and so on through the city administrator. And at that time, it was determined because we were in a discharge zone, we needed no additional permits. And I want that to be understood up front. We did file this because the city recommended that we do this, and this is the path that I think is probably the best route for us. But other than that, we comply by every rule, every regulation, and you're always welcome to come out and see the place as well. That's it.
Does the board have any questions for the
No, this time.
staff?
No, sir.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, sir. He stated he was instructed he was in the discharge zone back in 2017 was before he didn't need a conditional use permit. Is that,
And I'm trying to remember if he spoke with me or a previous city planner regarding the discharge zone.
okay?
I don't recall.
And there's no minutes that can support any statement?
I don't believe it was at a public meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
It's in the office.
okay.
Okay, so what I saw you put up there and with Scott, this is for Scott in the staff report, the discharge zone does not specify use of the property as far as residential or commercial. Is that
That's correct.
That's where the ambiguity comes in. It allows for the discharge as otherwise permitted, but does not define that. Okay. I guess it's more of I'm thinking through it than a question. Okay. Okay. We have, I don't have any more questions, I'm sure I will. We have a number of speaker slips. We generally go through these in the order that they were received. Apparently, the first gentleman that came, Mr. Levacy, you asked to speak last. We are going to allow people to come back up, wherever you're at, if, with additional evidence and testimony, should you have it. But I will give you your opportunity to go ahead and speak now, if you wish to. Is Mr. Levacy here? Okay?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. You give your name and address for the record, please?
My name's Richard Levacy, 41 Charles Road, Dyersville, Ohio. I just live just west of the Bulk Ranch. I love God. I love guns. I love my country, and I love church. And every day, somebody has taken away our freedom with the guns. Everything we do to enjoy the enjoyment that we as Americans have fought for hundreds of years. And this is I feel this is another way that somebody has taken our freedom of using our guns for enjoyment. And this is not right. I live on Charles Road, and I hear more noises than the Bullet Ranch. I hear the neighbors, their chickens, their dogs, the motorcycles. It's a lot louder than what the Bullet Ranch produces by far. My wife's totally deaf in one ear, and she says I can hear the neighbor's chicken crowing every morning over the Bullet Ranch, their guns. And I say, we as Americans need to stand up and fight for our rights. And I'm here to fight for my rights as an American. And I will fight till the day I die. All right, and I thank you very much.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One question, just to clarify, you don't need to come back up. You live Charles Drive, and that is west of Mink Road? So
Yes,
you're-
I'm the second house in on the left. I'm probably the
Okay.
closest one to about anybody here.
Okay, I just wanna have an understanding
Can we see
geographically
the
that
plan?
there's the applicant's location, then the 80 Farrow Harley Place, then you get over to the Mink Broad intersection, and then you get over to Charles Road,
Yep.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
Right there.
okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. That's all,
Exactly
that's
half
all.
mile.
Okay, we have, next up, Dorothy Hicks, yes? Okay. You can come to the podium, Miss Lisa will swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Dorothy Hicks, 262 Charles Road.
Okay.
At 262.
262, okay.
Okay, my neighbor, Richard, we call him of course, Dick. But I know Dick have always told me he has a hearing problem. He said, come close, I can't hear you, come closer, that I cannot hear you. So, but anyway, he said, of course, that he cannot hear that the chicken noise is much louder, of course, than the noise of the gun. But first of all and foremost, what I want to say is this. I do not have no problem with guns. We are not trying to take no
I was clear when we
gun.
started. The evidence and testimony is to be the board. There's not
Okay.
to be dialogue between somebody at the podium
Okay.
and the audience.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. So, that's my, concern. I love guns too, but it's not about the guns. It is about the noise. The noise that I hear on Sunday morning. The noise that I hear, of course, when we had the previous holidays. Noise, noise, noise. I cannot go outside and enjoy. I also like to, say a couple other things too. Concerned about the real estate, of course, value of the homes. Because we do realize most people show homes on the weekend. And on the weekend, when you come in and you hear that noise, 9 times out of 10, that you're gonna have a problem with the value of your home. With that being said, because I also understand that the real estate agency, they have to inform that there is a rifle range, of course, in the area. I have been told that by a realtor. Also, noise sound level guidelines are described in the National Rifle, of course, Association. And they do describe, of course, some guidelines. And one guideline is the environment. It's during the planning phase, make every effort to minimize an adverse impact on the surrounding environment. It is recommended that a registered professional engineer be contracted and conduct an environmental assessment. Exercise care during the environmental assessment to address possible concern. If the environmental assessment is performed incorrectly or identify any environmental impact statement may be required, which might be expensive. Distant. Eliminate noise complaint and do not eliminate noise complaint entirely. However, study conducted by EPA indicate that noise complaints are likely when inhibited dwelling exists less than a half a mile from the facility. The shooting range produce high level sound. Escaping sound wave may be perceived as unwanted community noise by neighboring property owners. Shooting range should be highlighted as a noise park. And this is from the National Rifle Association. Conflict have already, of course, or exist. It was determined by the Agriculture Committee, based upon the documentation from the Lima Township, merged that commercial business cannot sell their discharge zone privileges. The state law I discussed all negates the town laws, including discharge zone. The Bullet Ranch have broken current zoning, the town nuisance law, the state laws, and the use of discharge zone. And I have one other thing I want to highlight right here. I've been living on Charles Road for over 40 years. I have enjoyed outside, but now it's difficult for me to go outside and enjoy my sanctuary that I call home. So please know that I respect, support, more than appreciate the right of our local community to bear arms and practice the sport, shooting within the confines of an indoor range. It is recent move of outside range that have raised the noise level, of course, in my neighborhood. I am simply requesting compassion and consideration for surrounding residents of our community to honor local noise and guidelines, promote and maintain environmental conducive to respecting the right of gun bearer while equally respecting the right of our neighbors. Thank you in advance for your time and thoughtfulness to only hear these concerns, but take action to resolve the matter in a fashion where both sides can win. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I have a question for you. you spoke to the real estate, I guess I wanna understand your testimony, is that real estate value or the ability to sell your house on
No,
a weekend?
No, the real estate values,
Okay,
yes.
and do you have evidence or some sort of evidence to support that, or you said you've talked to realtors?
Right. I talked to a realtor and they said, well, there is noise and they're showing the property on the weekend.
No,
Most
I
times when they
understand
show it.
that. I'm asking, do you have anything to submit to us
No.
that says that?
No, I don't have any data in my hand
Okay.
tonight. No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, do you go to church in the local area?
Well, I go to church in Columbus,
And-
so I'm not
okay.
local
Okay.
for church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, I'm sorry. Yeah. Question for Scott. Scott, I just wanna have can you throw the discharge map? Do you have the discharge map in here?
I just have that section.
I'm trying to understand what the potential, okay. The yellow's the okay, alright, thank you. Alright, next up, we have Natasha Benjamin. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I second. Thank you.
Okay, your name and address for the record, please, and you also have 5 minutes.
My name is Natasha Benjamin. I'm actually speaking for Christy Hess as her proxy. She resides at 12240 Mill Street Avenue in Pataskala. She was unable to attend today due to business, and she asked me to speak for her on her behalf.
Okay, so let me clarify, your evidence and testimony is you are her representative?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
she wrote a letter,
Okay,
and she would like me to read it.
understood. I'm gonna ask you to hold on. We've not had, Brian, somebody speak on somebody else's behalf. Are we allowed to consider evidence testimony that's not presented by?
It's a letter directly to Scott that was just directly from an email and Scott's response from the email. Sorry, I'm just telling you what it is.
You could do one of two. I mean, you could accept the letter as evidence, and you could then each individually read it. Or I guess I don't really see a problem with her literally just reading it. Though I don't think you'll be able to really ask her any questions or anything. So
Okay.
one of the
that's
two would be fine.
Perfectly
Thank you.
fine, thank you. Proceed.
Okay, this letter, was sent, to Scott Fulton about a nuisance complaint, I had with the Bullet Ranch's noise. Dear Mr. Blake, I would like to file a formal complaint that the Bullet Ranch is breaking the nuisance sound law. I live at 12240 Mill Street Avenue in Pataskala. The Bullet Ranch is outside sound law, outdoor sound law. I live at 2240 Mill Street Avenue in Pataskala. The Bullet Ranch's outdoor shooting has negatively affected my family and quality of life. They shoot outside for hours. Shooting has negatively impacted my family's quality of life. They shoot outside for hours on any given day or of the week, even Sundays and holidays. Times of the day they vary from AM to PM. Sometimes it's all day nonstop. I can hear the shooting while I'm lying down in my bed and in my living room while trying to spend some time with my family and friends. I can't even enjoy time outside when I listen to constant gunfire. But that isn't the worst of it. My dog is terrified of the gunfire. When it starts, she runs and hides. She won't go outside to potty, which has become a health issue to her. She has developed swollen kidneys and a urinary tract infection because was unable to urinate outside because of her fear. She would hold it for hours and hours. She just stays in the house cowering, panting, and shaking. Specifically on the weekends when the shooting is more constant. We had to be proactive, specifically, and make special arrangements that take time to make sure she gets plenty of outside time, real early in the morning before the shooting range opens up before business. I like spending time outside on the weekends, on my days off, relaxing and gardening. I like to spend time outside with my dogs and my friends and my family. This has all been affected. This has all have been affected. I can't enjoy my outdoor time without the constant noise of gunfire. Thanks, Christy Hess. And she also put here in Scott's response was, this was written by Scott on May 6, 2019 at 5:29 p.m. Ms. Hess, I'm sorry to hear about the issue you are experiencing. Unfortunately, Chapter 1287 offsite impacts the zoning code. The code does not include penalties for violations of that chapter. Therefore, while property may be in violation, there is no way to enforce it. While we work to correct this discrepancy, noise complaints should be directed to the Pataskala Police Department at this time. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks, Scott Fulton, Director of Planning. And then and that's it.
Are there any questions? If you could give that to Ms. Paxton,
Thank
to be
you.
entered into the record, please. Okay, we have,
Got intent?
yes. Leatrice?
Leatrice, yeah.
Okay,
I have handouts, do you guys want them?
after you've been sworn in and give your
Sure.
name and address for the record.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
280 Charles Road, Pataskala.
She needs to say that into the mic for Lisa.
Yeah, you gotta say it in the microphone.
Oh,
You gotta-
my address?
Records this,
Yes,
yeah.
the whole
the whole, which, all?
Your
Name and address.
Leatrice Gun Tag, 280 Charles Road, Pataskala, 43062. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I have been attending the agricultural meetings. They have recently gotten documentation from the Lima Township merge. That documentation showed that businesses cannot just sell their discharge rights. In your packet, you will also see letters and petitions from people all across Adams, Mill, Broad, and Charles who could not be here. Some are full letters, some are just the petitions, all different reasons of why they do not want this to go through. Little bit about myself. I was on the 80th floor of 9/11 when the plane hit. Started a business where I worked from home the majority of the time. It has been ideal until the Bullet Ranch began shooting outdoor range. The shooting can be heard inside my house with the doors and windows closed. The PTSD from the event does get triggered by loud noises. I cannot live a healthy, peaceful existence on my own property due to the shooting. There is a doctor's note in your packet explaining what it does to me. We also have, which you have heard from Natasha, a nuisance complaint that was filed with the town. They also were zoned to shoot, as Scott said, indoors and for archery outside. But I also had a lawyer with an affidavit that they shot there using those raised platforms for the shotgun range. Those raised permanent structures were permitted for archery, so the big question is at this juncture, who or when decides that they're even safe anymore for that activity? They were permitted only for archery. They broke their current zoning, which Scott mentioned. It did say, which is in that document on October 16th, 2012, page 2, there are no residential zones that will be impacted by the use. Well, they are. They will not be disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses. Well, they are. Will not involve uses that will be detrimental, including excessive production of noise. The Ohio Administrative Code, Scott had a lot of it correct with the decibels and the 24 hours and the measuring device, but he missed one important thing. It also states that noise and sound level guidelines are described and explained in great detail in NRA 2012 handbook that need to be followed as well to comply with that liability. Or the owner, operator, and users are all liable as well. So I'm going to now quote the NRA handbook, which some of Dorothy had quoted. They're very, very, very clear about where and when to put an outside range. It says, do not attempt to force a facility onto a site. A parcel of land is purchased with visions of the ultimate range facilities only to find that the parcel is inadequate. This is exactly what's happening here. Property values should be considered, especially in areas where urban growth is aggressive. Escalating property values often make it unwise to locate in a particular area. As we all know, property values in Pataskala are growing very quickly. The EPA indicate noise complaints are likely when inhabited dwellings exist less than 1/2 mile, while there are residents within 1/2 mile of the bullet range. Residential areas should be plotted in the vicinity plan, where residents in the range are once again less than 1/2 mile. They're very clear about that. The handbook that the state mandates to follow is very specific with noise and proper placement of shooting ranges. Not to mention EPA and safety that hasn't even been addressed in this discussion. Zoning this would be a liability because they can't pass these rules of the state, which trump all agricultural constructs in our town. There is no way to adhere to the 1/2 mile in the NRA handbook. Therefore, they will have no protection at the state level. The NRA handbook specifically warns against a lack of planning, how it impacts the community around a shooting range. Mr. Garavuso already broke his original zoning by creating excessive noise. He broke the city nuisance laws, he broke the state laws. He cannot use the discharge zone because he is a commercial enterprise and cannot sell his rights to the discharge zone according to the Lima Township merge documentation. If Mr. Garavuso planned from the beginning and told the Board of Zoning he was going to put in an outdoor range, he could have been told a better place to build his business. His lack of planning should not impact the residents around the bullet range. Any questions?
The questions?
No.
Anything? Thank you, ma'am. Up next, we have Charles Payton.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, name and address for the record.
Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Payton, 264 Charles Road, Pataskala, Ohio. I guess my biggest thing is being an avid hunter, hunting plenty of guns and hunting when I was 9 years old. I have to agree with Dick Levacy, and the point that was made that Dick couldn't hear very well, that's probably true, but I can hear excellent. I guess my biggest thing is the noise factor. You know, I live on the west side too. I live right across from Dorothy, and I am Lee's next door neighbor. Yes, I can hear this shooting, but it's not excessive. It's no louder than the dogs in the neighborhood. It's no louder than the chickens we have in the neighborhood. And it's more, I mean, we have planes flying over top of us that are louder. The decibel level, being an electrician, I'm fully aware of decibels and zones, which is rated to sound for fans and different motors, okay? Second of all, the noise, okay, if we're gonna worry about noise and the shooting of the bullet ranch is gonna interfere with dogs, what about the firecrackers of the 4th of July that the city of Pataskala sponsors? all the firecrackers, how many notices have you seen on fire or on telephone poles where dogs have been lost because they jumped fences because of the fireworks? Think about that. Now, are we gonna do something about that? The other thing, the Lions Club, they have a Sunday, we're talking about shooting on a Sunday where it's peaceful. Every Sunday they have a turkey shoot. You can hear those shotguns from the distance on a clear day if the wind's going the right way. And that decimal level isn't any louder than what the gun range shoots. Now, with all due respect, I'm sure what's sad about this, ladies and gentlemen, is just gonna probably cause a lot of conflict in the neighbors on our neighborhood, and that's too bad. But you know, I was told, being a hunter and not a discharge area, that quote, I could shoot all the deer in the area, shoot them, I don't care. So we're right next door to a person that's telling me to go ahead and shoot the deer, and yet they're worried about gun noises. I guess I don't understand the double standard here and the conflict, and you know, and it's really sad. You know, I really think it's sad that because of a little bit of a noise, and yes, it has got louder since I've been there. I've only been there 6 years, and like Dorothy, she's been there forever, and her backyard does back up closer to me, so maybe she does hear a little more. But if you're thinking the noise consists all day long, 7 days a week, think about this. You're either not working, you're not cooking, you're not watching TV. How can anybody actually hear that noise 24/7 from 9 o'clock till whenever the Bullet Ranch closes? Ladies and gentlemen, that's really all I have to say.
Okay. Are there any questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You may call
Thank
you
you.
back up. Is there any of the others? Thank you. Next we have Rebecca McCoy.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, thank you. Hi, I'm here, I live
Name
at
and
two
address
eight
for the
four,
record,
I'm sorry,
please.
Rebecca
Sorry.
McCoy, 284 Charles Road. I live between Leatrice and Dorothy. My yard backs up towards the Bull Ranch. I'm not here about the noise, I'm here about the property values. Now, I understand this hearsay, but I've been here for 25 years. I plan on selling in the near future, and when it gets into my pocket, that's when I care. I do not care about the noise, I'm hard of hearing, but I do care about my property values, as I think anybody who buys a home would be concerned.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank
Any
you.
questions? And as I asked before, do you have anything from a
I have
realtor
none.
that? Okay, thank you.
Again, mine is hearsay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry.
Next we have Shay Calmy? Shah Calmy?
We don't wanna say anything about it.
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the notifications come to my house so I can, who I know what is going on, that's what it can do.
I understand. Okay, thank you. All right, he received the notice and just simply wanted to know what was going on. So that was, so we're on to Steve Benninger.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. My name is Steve Benninger. I am resident of Gahanna. I'm pastor of New Life Church in Gahanna, also a corporate officer of New Life Church that owns the adjacent property that is currently occupied and leased by Harley Davidson. So we have the most immediate adjacent property and probably can make a case for the highest impact. Our position is that if this conditional use is granted, it would adversely affect our interests due to the loud and unsettling sound of nearby outdoor gunfire. We are a church. Our intent in purchasing the property was that once the current tenant, Harley Davidson, relocates, that existing building would be converted into a worship facility for our church congregation to meet in and worship in on Sundays. It would also serve as a hub for ministry activity during the week. And so The thought of parishioners arriving with their little children on Sunday mornings to the sound of loud gunfire, as you can imagine, is a disturbing prospect to us, not to mention to their parents. Youth activities and other classes and ministries and outreaches that are going to be held, proposed to be held during the weekdays and weeknight evenings would also no doubt be negatively impacted. So, given our proposed usage, we are not in favor of this conditional use being granted. Thank you for hearing me.
Any questions for the pastor? I have one question. When did you purchase the property?
December of 17.
December of 2017. Okay, thank you, sir. Are there any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Joel Lively.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joel Lively. I reside at 12274 Mill Street Avenue Southwest. I am the closest house to them. And this first row of houses right here. The only thing between me and them is that field.
Oh, okay.
And-
Where the pointer is there?
Yeah.
Okay,
My front porch actually faces the bullet ranch.
okay.
With that being said, we are the closest neighbor to them. Some testimony was brought up by Christy, which is 2 doors down from me. And talking about her dogs, I'm here to testify that her dogs are out in that yard all the time. Because my dogs bark to her dogs. So that is not correct. And I can take pictures if needed to prove it. But what I want to get at is the noise ordinance. If anybody's going to complain, I have a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old grandchild that we are raising at that residence, as well as 3 different dogs, all 3 different breeds. My dogs are not affected by it. My children don't even notice it. We get more noise from the airplanes going on top of us than the railroad tracks. Fire trucks coming down Mink, traffic on Broad. We don't hear the bullet range. I mean, you can hear them if you're wanting to, if you're focusing on it. But as far as the noise being overwhelming, there's nobody in here closer than I am to that place right now, as far as the residents go. And I think that this is a vagrant attack on our rights to be able to shoot, enjoy ourselves, and I'm opposed to it. And I think it's a major waste of your time. I'm sorry that we're all here, but this is not right. We should be able to do what we want. They did it legally. They are in a discharge zone, which means that I can stand out there and deer hunt, shoot my weapon in that field, and nobody can say nothing. But yet, they want to come after the field right in front of my house. It's in the discharge zone too, I believe.
Do you own it? I'm sorry, do you own that
No,
property?
no.
Do you have hunting rights on that property?
Emsweiler owns it, and I lease from Emsweiler.
You do?
My
Okay.
business, yeah, so
Okay, I just
can
wanna
hunt if I
understand
wanted to.
where you're
Yeah.
coming from there.
I mean, I wouldn't because of traffic in that area and so on and so forth, but I have the right to do that. So telling them they can't do it in a discharge zone would be like telling me I don't have the right to do it, just because they're a business. That's it. They followed all the rules. They came to you before they started it. They were in a gun discharge zone, so they didn't need a special permit. And now here we are. And, if they can just go after any small business, which I'm a small business owner myself here in town, just because somebody don't like the sound of the noise or the smell, I think they're infringing on our rights. And that's really all I have to say.
Any questions for Mr. Lively?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that is all the speaker request forms I've received, right? Okay.
Do we get to come back up?
Is there anybody else, hold on, sir, 1 second. Is there anybody else that did not fill out a form that wishes to speak and still needs to fill out a form? We have somebody back there. You have a form, please. Now you can bring it right up to me, 'cause that'll save Lisa a trip. Thank you, ma'am. If you could have her swear you in, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Rebecca Singleton, 1314 3 Broad Street.
Okay.
I'm at Broad and Charles, just right around the corner.
My thing is, I did speak with my realtor, her name is Judith Green, and she said what it's called is 8 disclosures as a realtor that they have to tell potential buyers of your real estate or of your home. And number 2 is called the nuisance, and under that would be possibility of shooting range. So, to state what everybody's been saying about their real estate and worried about it, that's what she described it as. So, that's my only thing, is just to make sure that, obviously, that we have good real estate, and I wanted to keep it that way, so that's my only thing.
Okay, are there any questions?
No.
Do you happen to know, in addition to the disclosure, I'm assuming that's a legal requirement, is there a similar requirement to disclose that you're in a discharge zone? If the business wasn't there in that big yellow area we see around there and all those people could shoot, is that still required?
That one, what she explained to me of the 8 that they have to disclose to potential buyers, she did not mention that, no. She just talked about nuisance law being, whether it's an industrial park, if it's, like they were big things like that, and shooting range, she just mentioned was part of that.
Okay.
But no, she did not mention the discharge.
And as I asked the other ones, you don't have anything from her to submit to us, right? This
From
is just
Ms.
information you're
Green,
sharing.
no, I do
Okay,
not.
I just wanna understand. Okay.
No, I just called her. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, was there anybody else? Sir?
I didn't fill out my sheet, so,
That's,
but I will.
Okay,
Reginald Wheeler.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
okay,
And I will fill out that sheet.
okay, name and address, please.
My name is Reginald Wheeler, and I live at 2934 Creekwood Estates Drive, Black Lick, Ohio, 43004. And I'm speaking to folk because I've been listening to all the conversation. I am a realtor. I've been in the business over 20 years, licensed through the state of Ohio, been with Camelot Real Estate Group, and currently also the realtor for the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, state of Ohio. When they talk about noise levels, we do tell our people that. We disclose that. The shooting range, yes, we do want our clients to know, because if you're gonna purchase a piece of property and I don't disclose that to you, I'm not doing due diligence to my clients. So I'm gonna have to let you know there is an issue with that. Property value, that's the toss-up. Is it gonna bring property value down or not? I would say yes. I would be doing comps in the area. Once I tell people we got a shooting range within a half a mile to a quarter mile, and you can hear the gunshot, especially when I'm showing a piece of property on Saturday and Sundays and you hear a gun, what is up? We gotta go, especially if I have young kids. So, I just wanted to bring that up because it can pose a problem. As a realtor, I would hate to tell my client, there is a gun range right there. But some people want it. Some people want a gun range. If that's what my clients want, that's even a positive for them. But as far as property value, it would hurt as far as bringing property value up. Any questions?
Other questions? Could you also, share with us on the business being set aside, and this is what I asked the last person, the whole area around there seems to be, according to the map, in a discharge zone. Would you also disclose that to your client, say, hey?
If we know about it. If we know about it. If we don't know about it, we don't have to disclose it.
Okay.
So,
And when you said it for the shooting range would be part of your due diligence, are you required to, or is
we're
this
not
just out of?
required,
ju-
but
that's
if
just
we
the
know about
best
it, we
practice?
must tell our clients.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
okay,
thank you, sir.
thank you. And you want me to fill out that form?
Please do.
Okay.
Okay. I see another. If you don't have a form, please fill one out before you leave. You'll need to be sworn in by Ms. Paxton.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you. Jerry Garland, business address, 12425 Broad Street Southwest, the Bullet Ranch. I'm one of Mr. Garavusso's partners at the Bullet Ranch, and I'm the guy that gets to be out front, actually running the show every single day. Steve has the hard job. He gets to sit in the back and he does the EPA, ATF, and all that fun paperwork. I get the fun part. I get to interact with the customers. Now, I had a very large file. I have it condensed on my phone. I'll get an email address so I can send it over. At our last meeting, when I first met Leatrice, I asked her to please keep a logbook of the noise ordinance that was bothering her, or the time. I wanted her to write down any time she heard a gunshot coming from the Bullet Ranch, and we would meet back here tonight in order to put everything forward. I have my paperwork, I have my logbook. Folks, it is 17 minutes a day on average for the last 3 months since that date. It is not 7 days a week, it is 4. So just a little bit further explanation about our 5 stand. What is it? Just so everybody understands exactly what is going on back there. Because it's not constant gunfire from 9 in the morning till 9 at night like what it sounds like. A round of 5 stand, the customer comes in, pays $9. They get 25 of the clays coming out of the houses. All those clays go to the big 12-foot mound. Everybody's shotgun, not rifle. We are a shotgun range, not a rifle range. The shotguns are pointed at the big mound where the dirt is. All the clays fly into that big mound. The target is to hit the clay pigeon before it hits the big mound with your shotgun. Your 7.5 or 8 shot goes in about a 30-inch spread, about like this. They're little tiny BBs. They travel between 300 to 400 feet, period. So from where they're standing to where the beads will basically just fall out of the sky is about 400 feet max. That's why we only use 7.5 to 8 shot. That way we are not impacting the environment. That way we are not impacting our neighbors. That way we are not basically impacting anything to do with the business. We want to be good neighbors. To the point to where when we met our new neighbors at the church the very first time, we promised them we would not, I apologize, Pastor Fry, I have not met you yet. All the members that came into from the church excited to be next to us. When they found out that they were moving in next to the Bullet Ranch, they were so excited. Many came in and bought memberships. The very first thing we did was promise them we would not be shooting outside during their services. We already vowed not to open the 5 stand on Sundays until 2 p.m. and it would be shut down by 6. And with enough prior notice, we would make sure it wasn't an operation, which, guys, it gets dark at 5 o'clock in the evenings anyways during the winter. It's closed anyway. We close the 5 stand an hour before dark. We don't want anybody out there shooting at clays that they can't see. I am an NRA instructor. Mr. Garavuso is an OPATA. That is the Ohio Police Enforcement, Ohio Police Officers Training Association. I am a Buckeye Sheriff's Association instructor. We had engineered drawings done and submitted to Licking County and Pataskala for the building, for the property with the intent. They cost a lot of money. Everything is built the correct way. Everything is built correctly for the 5 stand shotgun range. The NRA has no imposition from a rifle range. It's a shotgun range. There's a huge difference to the noise. There is a huge difference as to the impact on the environment. It's a huge impact. Any questions?
Can you clarify what you just said just now about the NRA's?
Yes, it is the National Rifle
No, I understand what
Association.
with
The facts that they were reading about were pointing to building a rifle range. Let's just take your average rifle caliber, a 30-06. It can travel 1.5 miles. This is a round that was used in World War I, a round that was used in World War II. It's loud, it's nasty, it has got one meaning, and that could be either to drop a 300-pound deer or a human being. Now, a lot of people do target shoot with 30-06, but it's highly expensive. The noise from a 30-06 would exceed that 194 max. It absolutely would. Standing on our property line with a noise meter, on our property line, not a half mile away on Charles Street, on our property line to the church, it does read 98. On Charles Street, it didn't even register. The planes going overhead were 68. The motorcycles going by were 70-something. The train was the loudest. I didn't hear the chickens, my apologies. So we documented everything. I'll find out where to send the register receipts. I have kept every single one and documented every single 5 stand round that has been done in the back ever since I was introduced to Leatrice. And I look forward to seeing her documentation so you guys can compare it. So where my times are digitally proven in a register by a national company, so they can't be refuted. I mean, when a customer checks in, it's on their credit card, it says right there. I can't get into Discover card, I can't get into American Express, I can't get into Visa card and change people's times. So all the times that I will submit will basically show from that point forward to 17 minutes is about the average that it takes. Some people get it done in 8, some people took 17. So I took 17 minutes to be the max that it would take to run all 25 clays. So that's the number I'm using. I'm pretty good at it. I get it done in about 9 minutes. So if I shot 2 rounds instead of 1, I'm still out of there in 18 minutes. The average that the 5 stand is used on any day, which is 4 days out of the week, not even 7, is twice a day. So a total of 34 minutes. Total, not sun up to sundown.
So back to my question, your testimony is that because we received paperwork citing Ohio Administrative Code, you're saying that the NRA reference in the code applies to rifle ranges, not shotgun ranges, is that correct?
Everything that was read tonight, correct.
Thank you, sir.
There is a subsection for that same book for shotgun ranges,
Okay.
but it is 100% completely different than a rifle range. And as an NRA instructor and counselor, I have read that book and been tested on that book, and I can testify that they are 2 completely different ranges.
Okay.
So as far as percentage of the time that you're open,
Yes, ma'am.
what percentage would you say that you have reservations or you have someone coming on site to utilize this facility outside?
Wonderful question. We do have 2 gentlemen that are members and are regular users that do use the shotgun range Friday mornings at 11 a.m., every single Friday morning at 11 a.m. He's out there from about 11 a.m. to about 11:35. He does 3 rounds. And then on Sundays, he's there from about 2 p.m. to about 2:45 p.m. But he's not just shooting outside, he's shooting inside as well.
So overall though, would you say?
Outside, I would say
how-
about 30 minutes would be maximum.
Per day, or like, how, percentage of your business that's?
Less than 1%. Yeah, less than 1%. Now, I'm talking about the time that it's utilized. On the profit center side, yeah, that's a completely different story.
And most
Whereas
sessions last how long?
17 minutes.
17.
Yeah, that's how long it takes to run. What you do is the 5 stands, there's 1 elevated stand on the left, there's 3 stands in the middle, and then there's another elevated stand there. You stand on top of the left one, you get 5 clays. Boom, 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 boom. You secure and make your firearm safe. You move to stand number 2. You get your second set of 5 clays. Boom, 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 boom. You go to stand 3, you get another 5 clays until you're done at stand 5. So 17 minutes is a long time to be out there, but when you've invested in something, you kind of want to drag it out a little bit and make it last as long as you possibly can. Some people that have done it before, they do it a lot. It's a hobby to them. Like I said, 8 minutes in and out. They get their scores in, they go. Then a lot of times they'll move indoors to shoot on the indoor range. And it's all weather. You know, nobody's out there in the rain, nobody's out there in the snow. You know, this is all only on nice days, which I understand can affect neighbors if they're actually outside. But once again, noise readings have shown everything is shown from the noise meter.
So on holidays, it's about the same 1%?
Man, we're closed on holidays.
You're close on holidays.
Everything they've stated about hearing us on holidays, I don't think they're hearing us. I think they're hearing the roofing nailers next door from the subdevelopment going in. The roofing nailers, boom, boom, boom. I personally stood on Charles Street trying to get a reading. I'm on the phone, hey, shoot the gun. Shoot it again, it didn't show up. I can't get a reading on the shotgun. I turn around, the nailers from the roofing people that are roofing from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., these guys work hard. They're throwing these houses up fast. They're using these auto nailers. Sounds just like a gunshot. And it's showing up about 68 to 72 on the noise meter. But it's not coming from us, it's coming from that new housing development just on the other side of the street. It does sound like a gunshot though. It really does. I thought it was a gunshot and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I've used them before.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody? Hold on, you've already spoken. Is there anybody else that has not yet spoken that did not fill out a form that would like to? Okay. Are there any questions from the board of anybody who has spoken? Staff?
No, sir.
We will go back to Mr. Garavuso, who first asked to speak again. Would you like to come back up?
I think Jerry did a good job up there, he covered my points.
Okay. There was another hand behind the podium here. Yes, ma'am, go ahead and come on up.
Do I need to say my name and everything again?
Name would be good, yes.
Leatrice got in tag 280 Charles Road.
Okay, you have additional evidence and testimony.
Yes.
Okay.
We did meet at the first time at a council meeting. He did meet me in the parking lot and did ask us, why don't we compare a log? And then he kept asking me over and over, why do we think it's them? Because they wouldn't actually say it was them. And I laughed and I said, because on multiple occasions, every time I hear it, intentionally, I drive to your parking lot to confirm it. His response was, well, are you sure it's us? I mean, you hear a lot of traffic on Broad and every other excuse. So I started laughing. Because, you know, there's only so much I want to listen to. So he said, let's make a log. And then I said, logs can be lied. That's not very, I have an engineering background. I said, why don't we get a third party in and confirm it? He said, either side, it's not very scientific. And then he said to me again, no, I want to make a log and compare. And I said, that's not scientific. I will deal with a third party only. And he kept dodging it. He wouldn't actually have us do that. And when we say holiday, it's true. They were closed on Labor Day, but boy, did they shoot the whole weekend up to that holiday. In fact, I know this because I was trying to have a memorial service for my dad on my property. Couldn't do it. Too much noise. So I question that. Just saying.
I have a question.
Okay, hold on. Question, go ahead.
As far as compromise, what kind of compromise are you looking for, or what
No.
resolve?
When our log discussion of him trying to prove that it's them because they still won't say it's them shooting, I told them that I will not have a you write a log and I write a log because that could be
But I
forged.
meant overall, like, do
I
you
want
have any
quiet.
kind of, so,
I believe, well, first of all, he also stated at his property line that they registered it over 98, I believe he stated. And according to the state laws, which he said, it said it cannot be at your property line over 90.
For
or
an
else-
hour, for
Wait.
length of
Yes,
time.
Wait,
So he's already said they exceed the
I
noise.
think you're missing my point.
Yes.
Is there any compromise?
No, my
that you might-
compromise is I want quiet and it's affecting too much of our lives and our housing values.
anybody else? Yes, yes, sir. We have additional evidence and testimony.
Dick Levacy there, 41 Charles Road.
Okay.
If this is affecting our property values, my taxes keep climbing every year, you know, the value keeps climbing there. I don't know where people see that improvements that are around our neighborhood where our property value is going down. There's no way in our nation that our property values are going down in the city of Pataskla. So if somebody tells you they're going down, they're on the wrong side of the street or the track there, so that's all I have to say. God bless America. Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah. Okay.
Did any of your taxes go down, gentlemen, ladies? No, have they? Has your value of your property gone down? I'm just throwing this out.
I understand, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I got,
Evidence and testimony
Can I-
related to the application.
can I ask a question?
You may come to the podium and speak.
It's Charles Payton, 264 Charles Road.
Okay.
Okay. They have a discharge area there, is that correct? That
That's
is
staff's report, that is.
So they
correct.
can actually shoot their guns outside, correct?
It's arguably debatable, depending
I'm-
on how it's worded.
And I'm gonna clarify, your questions need to come to us, to
Yes, sir.
nobody else.
Because as I stated, let's see where we got that. So we look at the discharge zone. So it could be, it was the way it's written is ambiguous. So was it intended to allow hunting in appropriate locations? Or would outdoor trap shooting be one of the discharge of firearms otherwise permitted? As otherwise permitted is not defined, it's somewhat of a gray area.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. All right. And then, and going back to the property thing, I hate to keep going this, but with the real estate agent back here, my wife is a real estate agent for Key Realty. She has her license, she's no longer doing that. But I think also, you know, if you have a house and you wanna buy it, whether it's a two-story, whether it's a single, whether it has a basement or not, that is gonna distinguish whether it's a property value or whether you're gonna sell or not. I don't think shooting a gun, it could be the planes flying over, because we're right in direct line with the airport, that could detour the property value. I mean, it could be anything. So it's like the real estate agent said, yes, they have to let the buyer know that, that's normal. But you also have to let the buyer know if there's a business in your neighborhood, if there's a church they may not like, I don't care what religion it is, there's gonna be a lot of things that is gonna detour a person from buying a house, not so much the real estate value of the property.
Okay.
So I mean, that's, from my own wife, that's what I've gone through with her, so. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Anybody got any questions? Thank you,
Great.
sir.
God bless, guys.
All right. Is there any other evidence and testimony directly related to the application at hand?
I'd like to add one more thing if I could.
If
real
it's
quick.
evidence and testimony, this board can consider it.
Joel Lively, 12274 Mill Street. The church that testified, I just would like to bring the point to you guys that Bullet Ranch was already there when that was purchased, and that they did go back, bend over backwards to try to avoid interfering with their services. And that just goes to show that they are willing to do what they can to work with the neighbors.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Levy? All right, once again, anyone else, evidence, testimony you wish to provide? Hearing none. Mr. Garabuso, if you would come up, I have some questions for you, sir. For the record, this is already in there, I'm gonna make sure I have a clear understanding. You converted the use, you said October 1st of 2017, is that correct?
Yes,
From the archery range to the
from archery to five stand.
fire stand. Thank you, sir.
And that was after numerous discussions with the city.
And your testimony is that you had a discussion with someone from the city that said you did not need a conditional use permit, but your discussions with the city, if I'm understanding, is you have agreed out of an abundance of caution to go ahead and submit the application and go through this process, is that correct?
Correct,
Thank you,
and
sir.
to be honest with you, initially I objected to doing that because I was previously told you don't need this. You're
Okay.
gonna discharge on, I spoke with Mr. Fulton numerous times. He, from his conversations to me, concurred with the law director as well as the city administrator, and it was all agreed that, no, we don't need it, we're in a discharge zone. I think the otherwise permitted was brought up at the time, and there's no definition for it. It's not defined in the code anyway.
Okay.
So yes, we did everything by the book, without question. We did not need any permit to start for the archery. Some people back here believe that we had a permit for the archery. There was nothing needed for anything we did out back. We did build the structure, have it engineered, it was also approved by and permitted by the county, had to come out for the outdoor structure. City did, I believe, the indoor structure, the building itself, but anything outdoors was the county.
Okay.
We
Now-
we did everything, we jumped through all the hoops.
Well, I have you up here, I wanna have an understanding, a clear understanding of two things. Your current hours of operation for this use and your desired operation, hours of operation for this use.
There's
One,
no
and I'll
difference.
say why for everybody in attendance, one of the things that this board can consider is hours of operation of a conditional use if it is to be granted. So I wanna have an understanding of what you're doing now and what would you like to do.
Certainly.
Any application we would ask, I'd like to know from you.
Here's our current hours of service. Monday through Thursday, we're open from 10 to 9, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Outback, soon as dusk is in, typically an hour, like Jerry said, an hour beforehand, we shut it down. We have to close up our trap boxes, about 15 or 20 minutes worth of an employee's time closing up and securing everything. We don't want them out there in the dark either. Weekends, as in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we open at 9 a.m. and we close at 7 p.m. Again, depending on the time of year, we're closed at dusk. You know, in the summer when it's open until 9:30, we might have shooters out there at 6 on a Saturday. But again, as Jerry defined, you know, we're looking at less than 5% of our day on a maximum, maybe 4 days a week that is being used. And we do have, everything's run through the register. We weren't ever taking a handwritten log. We discussed with Leatrice, you know, sitting down and talking about this, and I believe her response was, I'm gonna shut you down. That's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna shut you down. And that was when the discussion pretty much ended.
So
We've tried to be the best neighbor we can. We support the city, we support everything involved in the city, all the youth groups and beyond that. And we've done everything the city has asked us from day one.
okay, so your employee, Jerry,
He's my partner.
I'm sorry, your partner, referenced what I understood to be different hours on Sunday in deference to the church. You said Friday through Sunday, you operate from 9 to 7. I thought I understood from him Sundays was 2 to 6 to.
We would hold back anybody out in the outdoor track.
Your business
Till
hours
2
of
o'clock.
operation.
Normal
stay the
business
same.
hours, store and the indoor range would be open, normal business hours. We just would, on Sundays, because of, you know, their services, and we should respect that. And Jerry had conversation with them at least a year and a half ago, probably, a couple of times. And like you said, we've had several of their members come in and join our business.
Otherwise, from the Sundays, your outdoor range matches your business hours
Correct.
of operation.
That's the way it is right
The
now.
whole thing. Okay.
But we were willing to hold back till afternoon until they finished, you know, any of their services.
Okay.
And certainly if they have functions out back and things like that, we work with our neighbors. You know, if there's gonna be something going on out behind the meat shop, Kirk lets us know. And we take care of it to make sure everybody's safe and everybody's, you know, in compliance and everything, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Garavuso? Staff, anything you need to clarify?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We've heard a significant amount of, at the very least, administrative code, possibly revised code, I don't know on that, quoted and submitted tonight. NRA text that may or may not apply. We are fortunate tonight to have legal counsel here. It is my understanding, I guess I wanna clarify here real quick, no other evidence or testimony that anybody has, is that correct? Okay. This board has the authority / opportunity to confer with legal counsel if it so deems necessary, is that correct, Mr. Zetz?
Yes.
It is my recommendation as chair that this board do so. I don't believe it would take long, we've done it before. I think that I want to have a clear understanding of the law. There's been things shared that support it and refute it. So I would recommend this board recess this hearing to meet with legal counsel and then come back. I don't wanna recess for a time specific, although I don't believe we will be gone for a long time, but I would ask to meet with Mr. Zetz. If Mr. Fulton could make a conference room or something available. Okay? We need a motion and a second and a vote to do so.
I'll move if we do that.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion to recess to meet with legal counsel? No. Hearing no discussion, roll call please, Ms. Paxton.
Mr. Gaelick?
Yes.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Ms. Rodak?
Yes.
Time now is 7:50. We will reconvene here as soon as we're done. So we will, come back to the hearing here. I'll need a motion to return from the recess.
So move.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, roll call please.
Ms. Rodak?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Yes.
Mr. Gailey?
Yes.
Time now is 8:26, according to that clock back there. Mr. Fulton, I have a couple follow-up questions. I'd like to first thank Mr. Zetz for his time and meeting with us. Scott, the number 2 on the criteria that this board can consider is the how the request relates to the comp plan. And I don't, if it was in your report, I apologize, I missed it. Can you speak to a few things? A, is it harmonious with the comp plan, the request? I know it's zone GB. And then also I'd like just a very quick, I guess one concern I have is we have an existing comp plan that's in essence outdated and you're in the process of updating it, so we're kind of in limbo, so I don't even know if we have a good comp plan to refer to, but we obviously have one that is legally in place. So could you shed a little light on that, please?
Unfortunately, offhand, I don't know what the existing comprehensive plan recommends for the property, but considering the new one has yet to be adopted, that should not be considered until that's formally adopted by council.
Okay, I understand. We should not be able to consider the new one because it's not yet been adopted. Okay, Mr. Garavuso, I have a couple questions for you. If you wouldn't mind to come up. Clarify for us I heard you say 15 minutes tear down for the stands. Did I hear you say that the range shuts down an hour prior to
Sunset.
sunset?
Correct.
So it kind of varies, doesn't matter throughout the year, 1 hour prior to.
Up to the latest we're open, which is 9 o'clock in the evening.
The earliest it opens is.
But even when, sorry for interrupting you, but even when we close at, if our hour to close at 9, even if it's still light at 9, we're closing the traps at 8 o'clock, just because we have employees out there. Get that done before we start doing our close down procedures.
An hour before dark, but no later than 8 o'clock is your tear down time, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
And then the start time of the outdoor range currently is, it follows your current business hours, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 9,
Correct.
Friday, Sunday, 9 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
You indicated, and so did your partner, on Sundays, you have or you are willing to entertain hours of 2 to 6 on Sundays to try to minimize the impact on what could potentially be a church use
Absolutely.
adjacent to you.
And the pastor did stop by and we spoke a little bit, and he said he had not heard that through his elders
Mm-hmm.
yet, but they're in the church quite a bit, they're in the shop quite a bit, so
Okay.
he was good with that. And he was okay with that as well. He appreciated it.
As I stated when we started the hearing this evening, everything that comes before this board is evidence and testimony and entered into the official record. So I want to make sure that I understand, on the Sundays, would you be opposed to, if this board were to grant the conditional use, Sunday operations for the outdoor range to be limited to 2 to 6 no matter?
I wouldn't be opposed to that, no. I don't, my personal opinion is, I mean, if it's okay at one time, why isn't it okay? I mean, if we're meeting the requirements and everything that we are when it comes to the city ordinances and so on. But no, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like I said, we're gonna postpone it till 2 anyways, just in regards to the church
Okay.
and their services.
And I do appreciate you sharing the intent. The problem with the intent versus what gets into the record, right, is if the business changes hands down the road or something, we need to make sure we have in the record exactly what is set, and that's the only reason I'm asking if you're
No, that's fine.
trying to get
Put it
some
in the record.
structure here. You tear down an hour before sunset, no later than 8 o'clock. Do you tear down an hour before the business closes?
We try to.
Friday and Saturday, you've got 9 to 7, so you're tearing down at
Yes,
6. Is
yes,
that why the
absolutely.
Sunday says 2 to 6?
Like I said, our employees have closing procedures, so that gets done before they can even start to close.
Okay. I just wanna make sure I have an understanding of the hours. I believe, unless there's any other questions from the board, for Mr. Garabuso. Thank you, sir. Okay, I did not close the evidence and testimony earlier. I'm gonna ask one more time and extend the offer. Is there anybody else that has, and I will be clear again, evidence and testimony related to the application at hand that they wish to provide? Going once, going twice. Hearing none, we will close the evidence and testimony portion of this hearing. To give a little context, this board, when it comes to conditional uses, has a number of items that it can consider, specifically 12-1504, the city code, that is listed in our applications. We all know them as the findings of fact. Findings of fact. There are a number of things that this board can consider in approving or denying a conditional use application, things like access, lighting, hours of operations, things like that, and that is why I've been wanting to get a clear understanding of the hours and what's actually going on and what the intent is. We've heard a lot tonight. Some has been submitted written as evidence. Some, if not most, refutes something else. So it's kind of difficult to weed through it all and try to figure out what is all accurate and applicable and within the purview of what this board can consider. That being said, I don't know that there is any evidence that we have not received tonight that I desire to have. And therefore, I don't necessarily see a need to table this to a further date, because I don't think that I'm gonna receive any, I can't think of anything that's missing. Does anybody else have any other thought?
I don't have any concerns.
Okay. That being said, I think it's okay for us to go ahead and proceed then with the findings of fact. I'm trying to find it on my, here we go. In your your staff report, you'll find it on page 4 of 5. This is our normal 1 through 9. So, unless there's any objection, I'm gonna go ahead and run through that. Hearing none, these will be the findings of fact for conditional use application 19-002, otherwise known as the Bullet Ranch application. Number 1 is in fact a conditional use as established under the provisions of Title III of the Planning and Zoning Code for the specific zoning district of the parcel listed on the application. This is an interesting one because what we heard from Mr. Fulton, the previous conditional use, if I had an understanding, when a business first went in for the indoor range, it was an accessory use, therefore the conditional use permit was required. This is in essence a very similar type scenario, therefore a conditional use application and permit would be required, so I'm inclined to say the answer to number 1 is yes. Is there anybody that has a different opinion on
No, I agree.
See it listed there. Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes.
Hearing all yeses, number 1. Number 2, will it be harmonious and in accordance with the general objectives or with any specific objective of the city, comprehensive plan and or this code? say
yes,
based on the fact that the zoning inspector had no comments, the city engineer had no comments, police department has no problem with it, fire district has no problem with it, schools have no problem with it.
It is within the discharge zone.
The discharge zone is a part of the city's code, so I would be inclined to agree. And it is within a general business district, so I'm inclined to say yes on number 2 as well.
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be harmonious in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change the essential character of the same. I mean, we have an existing shooting range there, or I'm sorry, a firearms business, I don't see where we're,
I don't see it disrupting.
where it's not in line with the,
I feel it's harmonious within the business district.
anybody
And it
else?
complements
No,
the
I
other
got that.
business,
I'm sorry.
and it complements the other businesses.
Okay, anybody else? Any other thoughts? I'm inclined to say then that the board's thought on number 3 is yes.
Yes.
Okay. Number 4, will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses. This is an interesting one for me, to be honest. We've heard, and this is where we go back to, we've heard differing opinions. I've not seen any, we have the testimony of residents. I don't know that I've seen evidence to suggest that it's hazardous and disturbing. A lot of the testimony points back to the noise generated by air traffic, roads nearby. I have to think that the south of there is a planned industrial park. Bless you.
Bless you.
So I guess I'm failing to see that it's outside of what those things currently are anticipated
Plus,
to
again, there's
create.
consideration that it's in the discharge zone.
Right, I agree, it is
Bless
a
you.
discharge.
So, I'm inclined to say for number 4 that it would be yes as well. Is that the
That's correct.
will of the board?
Yes.
Okay, number 5. Will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water and sewer and schools, or that the persons or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequately any such services. I'm inclined to say the answer is yes, since how it's
Yes.
already served by this.
Yes,
Definitely. Yes.
Number 6, will not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. I have not heard any evidence or testimony saying that it would, so I have to say yes.
I say yes. I feel it benefits the economic welfare of the community.
Okay. It would meet number 6 then. Number 7, will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operations that will be detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare, including but not limited to excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, odor, potential for explosion, and air or water pollution. Again, this is probably the other one that I struggle with. I guess I keep going back to the testimony of the gentleman from Mill Street, what the actual, I guess what you're actually hearing when this is going on, and Mr. Garavuso's partner spoke about the difference between shotgun being fired versus a rifle and noise related there too. I think this is probably geared more towards, mining type operations when we're talking about explosion, traffic, noise, fumes. Again, this is probably things that are gonna come up that unfortunately Mr. Fulton will probably have to deal with when the industrial park develops out. So, although that would be great for the city, those are probably things that are coming. So I don't know that any of those apply, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna have to say yes for number 7 as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Number 8, will have vehicular approaches to the property, which shall be so designed as to not create an interference with traffic on surrounding public thoroughfares. Again, we have an existing business with an existing ingress egress, so I have to say yes.
And they've also followed, didn't they have to do a study before they opened?
Back in 2013.
Yeah, 2013, they
I think
did a
I saw
traffic
that.
study, so
Yeah.
I feel like this one has to,
Okay.
there should be a yes.
And finally, number 9, will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature of major importance. Again, I go back to, this is an existing business, not something that's clearing a business or land, so I have to say yes. So Ms. Paxton, for the record, we have yes for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 9. Those are the findings of fact for this application by this board. Additionally, that's, I was trying to see how it meets the code and based on the evidence, testimony, and the application. As I stated before, there's a number of things, I guess, for the people in the room that this board can consider. There's certainly a lot of things that this board cannot consider, and challenges to weed through all that and find what evidence and what testimony actually applies and what facts are actually there. I think that I have I believe I have an understanding of that. My main concern, even though the church purchased their land afterwards, I think they have a legitimate complaint on hours of operation, and that is one thing that this, I shouldn't say complaint, concern, hours of operation, that is one thing that this board can consider. Mr. Garavuso has shared that, he is willing to limit his Sunday hours of operation for the outdoor, trap shooting range as it is on the application from the hours of 2 to 6 p.m. on Sundays. He's indicated that his normal business hours are Monday through Thursday 10 to 9, Friday through Sunday 9 to 7. Sunset varies throughout the year. I would be interested in an hours of operation limitation that includes a Sundays from 2 to 6, other 6 days of the week as listed, closing the outdoor trap shooting range 1 hour prior to sunset, not to be less than 8 o'clock p.m., or 1 hour before the retail business inside closes, whichever is earlier. And additionally, the limiting the outdoor trap shooting range hours beginning to not to be earlier than the inside hours of operation of the retail establishment. It's a lot of words. Did everybody follow that, and do they agree?
Yes.
Any thoughts on the board, from the board?
It's 1 hour before sunset, not any later than 8.
Not to be later than 8 o'clock. How you wrap that into a motion, that's gonna be fun. I guess beyond that, again, this process, you know, this board approving something as a adjudicatory hearing, then, anybody aggrieved by it then obviously has the right to go on to administrative appeal. But I think that trying to look at the criteria of what we can consider and what we have before us this evening, that is the only, limitation or limitations that I would think would be appropriate and that, I would otherwise, support the application.
I just wanted to make sure, I know that Scott had put up 4 criteria, so
Yeah.
there's 3 other ones there you may or may not wanna consider, but if you're gonna consider them, I wouldn't say the hours of operation are your only condition.
That is correct. My hours, my thought on the hours of the operation would be in addition to supplementary conditions suggested by staff that will likely be included in any kind of motion. I'm gonna take a second to kind of look through this. So I will formalize a motion here in a second, but number 2 in staff's report would be modified to some form that
Do you wanna hear my
reads with what I,
modification?
yes. And then we'll see if we like that.
The use of the outdoor shooting range shall be limited to 1 hour prior to sunset, Monday through Friday, no later than 8 p.m. Sunday, 2 to 6 p.m.
That doesn't,
Doesn't
no,
fall?
because
No?
you're not doing a starting time on those days. I was gonna say should mimic the hours of operation except
You
close.
want-
You know what I mean, cause you're just
Okay.
saying it's one, that's all they can do, it's 1 hour prior to sunset. They have to
Limited to, yep, I agree, I agree. So you have to have the hours. Well, do you have, what are
My
the
suggestion would
hours?
be the use of the outdoor shooting range shall mimic the hours of operation with the exceptions of Sunday 2 to 6 and daily will close, 1 hour prior to sunset and no later than 8 p.m.
That sounds better.
Is mimic a good word for
An acceptable word?
match? Meet, does it matter?
Like, match is probably better, but.
Okay. I'm just asking, just wanna make sure we get it. He's got shall. Match.
So instead of shall be limited to, it shall match. Match.
The hours of the retail establishment? Of the indoor uses?
Just put normal operating hours,
Okay.
that's their business.
The indoor uses. But shall not extend,
The business normal operating hours with the exception of Sundays, you know, it would be 2 to 6, and daily would not, or would close 1 hour before sunset and no later than 8 p.m.
it's hard here. And it's in 2 to 6.
It's hot in here. I second that motion.
Yeah.
I wore the wrong shirt.
Alright. So I wanna make sure I have it correct, the use of the outdoor shooting range shall match the hours of the indoor uses, but shall not extend later than 1 hour prior to sunset or 8 o'clock PM whichever is earlier. For, Mondays through Saturdays, with the hours of Sunday operations for the outdoor shooting range to be 2 to 6. Is that what we're saying? Okay. Good Lord. One more minute here. I don't like the first part, because if the hours of operation of the indoor uses get moved back to whatever, 6 in the morning.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? I don't like to match the hours of the
And
indoor
it- and it-
uses.
It could be not this owner, but the next owner that, you
That's
know,
true.
if we have something that we can fall back on and understand, I think.
His hours are Friday through Sunday is 9 o'clock he starts at 9 is the earliest start. I would support a 9 o'clock start time permitted across the board,
Except Sunday.
except for Sunday. The use of the outdoor shooting range shall not, alright, here we go.
Begin no earlier than.
Yes, shall not begin earlier than 9 o'clock AM, Mondays through Saturday, and shall not extend later than 1 hour prior to sunset, and that's where it starts here, sunset or 8 PM, whichever is earlier from Monday through Saturday. The operating hours of the range for Sundays shall be 2 to 6 PM. I'm gonna make that motion if somebody wants to amend the motion, because we don't have it right, feel free, but I think we got it. Bruce, you good?
Can you read it one more time? And
I agree.
Okay. So you would like to hear the whole line? The use of the outdoor shooting range shall not begin earlier than 9 AM Monday through Saturday, and shall not extend later than 1 hour prior to sunset or 8 PM, whichever is earlier from Mondays through Saturdays. The hours of operation of the outdoor shooting range for Sundays shall be 2 to 6 PM.
Agreed.
Any other discussion? Okay. Then. I will move to approve a conditional use pursuant to section 1249.0416 of the Pataskala Code for application CU -19-002 with the following conditions. Number one, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. Number two, the use of the outdoor shooting range shall not begin earlier than 9 AM Mondays through Saturdays, and shall not extend later than 1 hour prior to sunset or 8 PM, whichever is earlier for the days of Monday through Saturday. The hours of operation of the outdoor shooting range on Sunday shall be 2 to 6 PM. Number three, the outdoor range shall be used for trap shooting only. And number four, the applicant shall comply with all applicable state and federal laws. That is my motion. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Motion's been seconded. Is there discussion on the motion?
No.
Hearing none. Roll call, please, Ms. Paxton.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Ashcraft,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Gaelick.
Yes.
Mr. Garavuso, your application has been approved. Staff will follow up with you in the next couple days with everything that was read through and criteria tonight.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good evening. You're free to stay for the rest of the meeting, but it is, or likely is not to be eventful and fun. We will move on to the findings of fact, number 6 on the agenda. I need a motion to approve the findings of fact as discussed in the hearing. I have a motion. Is there, from Ms. Rotoback, is there a second? Mr. Ashcraft, second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gaelick,
Yes.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Ashcraft, Mr. Howe.
Yes.
Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the September 9, 2019 regular meeting. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Ashcraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaelick. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Ashcraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gaelick.
Yes.
Minutes are approved. The excuse of absence from Mr. Platt from the September 9, 2019 hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Rotoback, second by Mr. Hauser. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ashcraft,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Platt,
Abstain.
Mr. Gaelick,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before the board?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to the November 12, 2019 meeting. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Howes, or second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaylor. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Gaelick,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Yes.
We are adjourned.